Hello and welcome. You know what? I wanted to do a video today on how to set memory goals, how to set learning goals. And here's the reason I think this is so important. This is important. Sometimes, and I'm filming this video at the beginning of a year, right? It's New Year's Eve. But regardless of when you're watching this video, it is so important to have goals. It gives you something to shoot for. Here's the deal. I've been teaching memory training for 33 years. Can you believe that? I know I look like I'm 27 years old, but I'm not. I started teaching memory training when I was 18 years old. Believe it or not, that's crazy. I know that's crazy, but 18 plus 33, I'm 51 years old. Maybe I should. Hey, how are you doing, Melody? Great to see you. I want to talk about memory goals because here's what's happened. Over the last 30 years, I've traveled all over the United States. I've probably given my speech in 45 of the United States, 45 states out of the 50 states. I've given this speech in over 30 countries. And thousands of people have bought my online courses, and so many of you watch the YouTube. Here's the point I'm getting at, and this is so disappointing to me. It's so disappointing to me when I teach somebody memory and then I see them 6 months later or a year later or whatever. And again, I've been doing this for over 3 decades, and they tell me, man, Ron, the stuff you taught me, it was awesome. I'm like, oh, what have you used it for? Well, nothing yet, but I plan to. Here's the problem. Abel Azona, hi, how are you? Here's the problem. If you don't have learning goals, if you don't have goals, you're probably never going to implement it. People always ask me, Ron, how can I make memory a habit? How can I make having a better memory a habit? The first thing that you do to make having a better memory a habit is to set a goal. Here's what I mean. Here's a couple ideas on things you could do. I want you to just think about, what are you passionate about? What do you love? What do you like? Do you love sports? Are you a sports fan? What do you like? Do you like baseball? Do you like football? Do you like basketball? Type it in the chat box if you want. But are you a sports fan? Ask yourself that. If you are, great. If you're not, that's fine too. Do you like history? Melody says he wants to memorize Chinese characters. That's perfect. That is perfect. You're finding something that you're interested in and that you're passionate about, and you're giving yourself a project. I dated a girl probably 12 years ago. Wonderful, wonderful girl, sweet girl. And she wanted to impress me. And I love the Texas Rangers baseball team. You know what she did? She memorized all the players and all their numbers. And I would give her a number and she'd say the player's name. I was so impressed with it. It was so sweet. It was so wonderful. But she gave herself a goal. If you are a sports fan, give yourself a goal. Hey, I want to memorize the lineup for this baseball team, or I want to memorize all the quarterbacks in the National Football League, or I want to memorize the statistics of all. Now, statistics are going to change and quarterbacks are going to change, but you get the idea. Maybe you're a history fan and you love history. Maybe you want to memorize the important dates in world history. 1066, the Battle of Hastings, December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor. Find something that interests you and tell yourself, I'm going to memorize this. That's the first thing. The first thing you need to do is make sure it interests you. And this is step one. There's going to be several steps to this. Step one is find something that interests you and think about it. And we can brainstorm here in this video together. Happy New Year to everybody who's saying Happy New Year. Some of you may be watching this later. But let's brainstorm together on some things that excite you. Let me just run down a list right here, and then I'll go to step two, because you can't just deciding that you want to memorize something is not enough. We got to do some more things in this process. And let's walk through these, and let's set some goals here to get us excited about learning. Number one, decide what it is you want to memorize. Are you passionate about sports? Are you passionate about history? Are you passionate about science? Are you passionate about something you're learning in school? Are you passionate about poetry? Do you want to memorize Robert Frost poems? Are you passionate about your religion? Do you want to memorize the Quran or the Book of Mormon or the Bible? What are you passionate about? And the reason that I think you need to be passionate about it, because if you decide you're going to memorize something and you're not passionate about it, it's not exciting to you, you're going to give up. You're going to give up. and you're just not going to do it. Now, here's another thing. Here is another thing. Let's say you pick a goal and you say, I want to learn to memorize poetry. I want to be somebody who can just quote poetry. Give yourself a goal, and step one is you start attacking it. And I'm going to tell you what the other steps are here in a second. But you start attacking it. Guess what happens? But you're going to learn things as you memorize this poetry, or as you memorize the history dates, or whatever you're memorizing. And those things you learn about yourself and learn about how you memorize and learn are going to help you and spill over into all other aspects of memory. So if you just want to memorize poetry because you love poetry and you start doing it, guess what? That act of making memory a habit and making learning a habit, learning what you love, is going to spill over. And then when it comes time to memorize something in your job, or when it comes time to memorize something in your school, you're going to have a system learned. By the way, thank you for everybody who's giving me the thumbs up. If we can get some more thumbs up on this, it would really help me out here. And so I do appreciate that. We're at 5 right now. I know we can get up to 10, right? I know we can do that. So find something you're passionate about. It's going to spill over into other things. What are the other things you do after you need? What are the other things? Okay, so number one, you've picked something you're passionate about. What's the second thing you should do in setting this learning goal? The second thing that you should do is look and see how much information there is in this goal. Look at the scope of the project. Look how much there is. For example, about 4 years ago, I wanted to memorize the United States Constitution word for word. That is 4,553 words. I needed to look at the scope. I needed to look at how much information there is. Maybe you want to memorize history for a history class you're taking. Look at how much information there is, how much is in the chapter, right? Look at the scope of it. That's going to do two things. It is going to, number one, help you establish how you're going to do this. You need a game plan. I'm not going to teach the mind palace on this video. I know if you follow my channel, you know I teach the mind palace all the time. Search my other videos for the. I'm not going to teach you how to memorize on this video. I'm teaching you how to set learning goals. But when you look at the scope and you look and see how much information there is, at that point, then you need to start thinking, okay, there's 4,000 words here, or there's 300 points, or 200 definitions, or whatever. Then you need to start formulating a plan. How am I going to do this? And maybe you search my YouTube channel for, maybe I've created a video on that specific topic already, and then you get a plan. So number one, pick something you're passionate about. Number two, look at the scope and see how much information that there is. See how much is there in total. That will help you get a plan. But it'll also help you do what we're going to need to do in step number 3. Step number 3 is something that I find so important, and that is break the goal down into 10% sections, 10% at a time. Now, if it's just a 15-line poem, you don't need to break it down into 10%, 1.5 lines, right? But for massive memory projects, I promise you this. I was in the United States military, and I memorized everybody who died in the war in Afghanistan from the United States military. It was 2,400 people. It was 7,500 words. 7,500 words I memorized in sequence. I guarantee you that if I did not have a memory system, I couldn't have done it, number one. But number two, if I hadn't broken it down into 10% at a time, I would have given up. I really would have given up. There's something magical about doing 10% at a time. Thank you for all the thumbs up. We're up to 9. I know we can get more. Greetings from South Africa. I've been to Joburg, and I've also been to Cape Town. I taught 2 seminars in South Africa and Zimbabwe, which is right just to the north of you, and Tanzania, which is to the east of you. I've been all over that. I've been all over South Africa and Africa. So break it down into 10% at a time, because if you don't, you are going to give up. Here's what the magic thing happens. When you're memorizing, and if there's 2,000 pieces of information you're memorizing, just tell yourself, I just got to get to 200. I just got to get to 200. I just got to get to 200. That's 10%. Because if you tell yourself, I got to memorize all 2,000 of these, you're going to get discouraged. Then get to that 200 and reward yourself. Celebrate. Go for a walk. Go for dinner with your friends. Go to a movie. Take a break. Celebrate. But do 10% at a time. Then start working on the next 10%. And then when you get there, when you get to about 20, 30%, something magical is going to happen in your brain. And you're going to be like, whoa, I don't want to give up here. By the way, type some questions on anything on memory or learning or setting goals in the chat box, and I will answer them at the end of this session here. I'm going to talk for about 3 or 4 or 5 more minutes. So you need to set these goals, break it down into 10% at a time, and something magical is going to happen. And here's what's going to be magical. You are going to be like, when you get to 20, 30% complete, you're going to be like, wow, I'm not stopping. I'm going to keep going. And then when you get to 30 to 40%, you're like, this is going to happen. I'm going to do this. 50, 60%, the momentum kicks up. 70, 80%, you are full speed ahead. And it just keeps you motivated. It gives you goalposts. It keeps you from giving up, and it gives you rewards along the way. So pick something you're passionate about. Figure out the scope, how much information is there in total. Next, break it down into easy, manageable 10% steps and reward yourself. As far as the memory system, I do have a memory course. I will put a link in the comments to this video, in the description of this video, here in a minute with my memory course. If you want to get my memory course, I have one. You guys know that. But you're going to have to figure out a memory system. I'm going to tell you one more thing on setting goals that I have learned, I've heard, and it's just something to think about. You don't have to do this, but it's something to think about. Here's something interesting about setting goals. There was a scientific study, and it was done maybe 5 or 10 years ago. Who do you think is more likely to set their goals? The person who announces to the world and all their friends and tells everybody what they're going to do, or the person who just keeps it to themselves and works on their goal? Think about that for a second. Who is more likely to reach? There was a scientific study done on this. Who is more likely to reach their goal? The person who announces to the world, I'm going to go and accomplish this, and I'm going to do this great thing, and they're telling all their friends about it, they're announcing it on social media? Or is the person who keeps it to themselves and just works on it more likely to get their goal? They did research on this, and believe it or not, sometimes we think by announcing it to the world, we are holding ourselves accountable. The scientific study found just the opposite. The study found by announcing your goals and your plans to the world, people will start congratulating you. And they'll start saying, man, that's awesome. Good job. I know you can do it. You got this. Good job. You will start getting the reward already of appreciation and feedback. You will start getting the reward before you have ever accomplished the goal. You will get the reward before you've ever even accomplished it. So the desire to accomplish it and the need to accomplish it actually decreases. Studies find that the people who do not announce their goals publicly, but keep them private and work on them, are more likely to achieve their goals. That was such a profound study for me. Now, I think there are some exceptions to this. When I was training for the USA Memory Championship in 2009, I hired I was actually started training in 2008. I hired a United States Navy SEAL to be my mindset coach. I contacted former U.S. Memory Champion David Thomas, and I was working with these guys. I was working my Navy SEAL coach weekly. I was working with David Thomas every now and then, and we worked together for 3 or 4 months preparing for this tournament. Certainly, I told my coaches. Certainly, I told the people that was helping me train. But you know what? And I wasn't doing this intentionally. In other words, this was 2009. I had not heard about this scientific study. So I was not doing this intentionally. I was just doing this. And 3 days before the tournament, I was having dinner with my best friend. He's been my best friend since I was 11. And it hit me, man, I've been training for this memory tournament and I haven't told him. I said, hey, dude, I'm going to be going to New York this weekend and I'm going to be competing in a memory tournament. And it just hit me. I hadn't even told him about it. That's how focused I was on my goal. When 2 or 3 days before that, I called my mom and told her I was going to New York because I was competing in a memory tournament. I hadn't even told her. I wrote a book 20 years ago on baseball, and a friend of mine my mom worked at the driver's license office, and she was helping him with his driver's license. And he said, that book Ronnie wrote was great, wasn't it? And she said, Ronnie wrote a book? I hadn't even told. You don't have to go to that extreme. You don't have to go to the extremes I do, but I'll tell you this, it's something to think about. It's something to consider. And I will, in the comments after this video is over, I will link to the scientific study and more details on this study about setting goals. But at any rate, pick something that you're passionate about. Pick something that you're passionate about, or otherwise you'll give up. You want to pick a learning goal that motivates you. And whatever you pick, even if it has nothing to do with your school or your job, the benefits are going to spill over into your school or your job. Number 2, look and see how much information there is. Look and see how much. Is it 2,000 words? Is it 200 words? Is it 300 words? Is it 100 definitions? Look at the scope of the project, because that's going to give you a strategy that you can implement a strategy to actually memorize it. Pick something you're passionate about. Look at the scope of it. Number 3, I've already talked about these. I'm just doing a review. Number 3, break it down into 10% chunks at a time, 10% at a time. Doing 10% at a time will keep you motivated. Every time you hit the 10% marker, take a break, celebrate, reward yourself. But you're going to find it's magical. When you get 10, 20, 30, 40, 50%, it's going to be magical. Pick a memory system. Number 4 is pick a memory system. I'm not going to teach you how to memorize in this video. I got so many videos on that, but I will put my memory course in the description of this video. And then finally, the last one I said was, when you're setting a goal, tell key people close to you. Tell your best friend, tell your parents, tell your brother, tell somebody who's going to help you with it. But don't announce your goals to the world. Instead, it is so much more powerful to work on your goals in silent and then let the world know about it when they see it done. That is so much more powerful. Now let's go to your questions here. Let's see if you have any questions. Bonnie says, thank you. Have a blessed New Year. Thank you, Bonnie. Let's see. What are you to advise me while I'm reading? This is MG is asking, I don't know how I can read. Can I apply loud reading or moving lips? Okay. So you're kind of asking a question about how to read. As far as speed reading goes, or reading more efficiently, try not to move your mouth. Try not to read it out loud to you, because if you move your mouth as you read, you're going to be limited to how fast you can talk. You don't want to read at the speed you can talk, because that's slow. You want to read at the speed you can read. So put your finger underneath the words. In school, when you're 6 or 7 years old, that's how you start off reading. And then the teachers tell you to take your finger away and don't do that. I wish they would stop doing that. As adults, if you want to read faster, the best thing that you can do is start reading with your finger, pushing your finger across the page. When you read, I've got a calendar here, and it's on true crimes. I know that sounds morbid, but it's a calendar on true crimes, true events. So here's for today, for tomorrow, actually, January 1st. Here's what it says. Keith Moon, drummer for English rock band The Who, lived fast and died young. During his short life, he was as famous for his unique and energetic drumming. That's the words. Your eye has a difficult time staying focused, and it kind of slows us down a little bit. To help our eyes stay focused, get your finger and put it underneath the words and move your finger across the words and force your finger to follow your eye. You will read faster. You will also read faster if you don't say the words out loud or mouth the words. So the 2 points I could give you on this, MG, are this. use your finger or a pen, move. And sometimes you might want to use a pen, especially if you're studying. And when you get to something important, underline it. Use your finger, push your finger across the page like that, and don't say the words. Will it be possible to create a universal, this is Jono Kubit, will it be possible to create a universal memory palace rooms that covers all the Bible chapters? Jono, yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you know this, Jono. I have a course that teaches you how to memorize what is in every single Bible chapter. It's called the 1189 Bible Memory Course because there was 1189 chapters in the Bible. I have a course on how to do this. Jonu, I will put a link. Let me do something right now, real quick here. Brian, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to put a link. If you want to join my Bible Memory Club, I actually have a club. It's $19 a month. I'll put it in the comments right here. And Jono, if you sign up for that Bible Memory Club, you get my 1189 Bible Memory program for free. So, but yes, it's absolutely possible to do. You just need to create 1189 locations to memorize what's in every chapter of the Bible. MG says, what is the difference between reading style of silent reading and reading aloud? The difference is, if you want to read aloud, read aloud. But if you read aloud and your goal is to read fast, you're not going to read fast while reading aloud. The average person could probably talk about 200 words a minute. The average person could probably read about 200 words a minute. Those numbers are approximate. But if you use your finger and you don't say the words out loud, you're going to read faster. So that's the difference. But if your goal is not to read fast, then you could do either. Does the memory palace, Melody says, does the memory palace have a limit or go beyond your imagination? There's no limit to a memory palace. There's no limit to let me say that again. There's no limit to a memory palace. It goes on and on and on. Now, you're not going to use the same house. You're not going to create 20,000 locations in the same house. But if you want to make an extraordinarily large memory palace, this is what I would do. And this is what I did. Sit down and number. What are the buildings and the locations I know well? My house, my friend's house, my cousin's house, my mom's house. By the way, if you like what I'm teaching, give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up. Sit down and number the locations that you know well. My house, my mom's house, my friend's house, my cousin's house, my other friend's house, my favorite restaurant, my favorite bookstore, a sports stadium I know well, a baseball stadium, a park that I know well, a neighborhood that I know well, an office building that I know well. Number out 20, 30, 40 buildings, locate, and they could be outside. It could be a park. It could be an arena, a sports stadium. Write down in 30, 40, 50 locations that you know really well. Then after you have that, that's the outline for your memory palace. Then go back and pick 20 to 30 to 40 spots inside of each one of those. If you pick 30 spots in each one of those and you've numbered 50 buildings, you have a 1,500 location mind palace right there. You see the exciting part of that? Here's another tip I'll give you on this. I created a 500 location mind palace in the downtown of the city of Fort Worth. I got my cell phone and I walked this path all the way around downtown. I took a picture of that tree. I took a picture of that sidewalk. I took a picture of that window. I took a picture of that store. I went in the store. I took pictures around the store. I took about 400 or 500 pictures. Then when I got home, I put those 400 or 500 pictures in a PowerPoint presentation. And then I memorized that PowerPoint presentation in that path. I had a 500 location mind palace by doing that. So if you want to create a mind palace, that's a great way to do it. I'm not going to tell you any more on creating on the mind palace, but that's what I would do. Leo says, sir, I have a test named GEE, world's second hardest test. I'd like to know about this test. In about 21 days, a lot of content to cover. Any advice? Math, physics, and chemistry. Okay, Leo. math, physics, and chemistry sounds like there may be math formulas involved. If there are math and chemistry formulas involved, um, you have to make sense of the senseless. You have to make sense of the senseless. So if you're looking at a math formula and it doesn't make sense to you, if you're looking at a math formula and it doesn't make sense to you, I'm going to keep it real simple here. I know your test is not going to be this simple, but let me give you a simple example. You'll be able to figure out how to make it more complicated, right? For a more complicated formula. Here's the formula for a parallelogram. A parallelogram, the formula to figure out the area for a parallelogram is base times height. Parallelogram equals base times height. That's how the formula for that. So if you're a student and you're looking at that, you're thinking, how can I memorize this? This doesn't make, it's not going to be something easy to memorize. Well, parallelogram, turn that into a picture and see parallel bars like in gymnastics. BH, base times height. Tell yourself that that letter B is a bumblebee and the H is a hat. So you got a bumblebee wearing a hat. Now imagine a bumblebee wearing a hat doing gymnastics on the parallel bars. You see what I'm saying here? For variables in a math formula, B for base, use a bumblebee. H for height, use a hat. P for perimeter, use a pirate. Arr, arr. For pi, 3.14, use a pie, a piece of pie. For R, for radius, imagine a rat. And then create stories. Okay, BH, a bumblebee wearing a hat, doing gymnastics on a parallel bar. For chemistry, you're going to probably have a lot of definitions. What is an isotope? What are the noble gases? Let's take that example as an example. It might ask you, what are the noble gases? And I don't know them off the top of my head. I know argon and neon is a noble gas, but maybe you create an acronym of all the noble gases. So I'm gonna just Google this right now because that was just the noble gas. Well, here let's use AI. What are the noble gases? What are the noble gases? Let's see if we can memorize this together. I think there's about 10 of them. 18. Oh wow. Wait, are in a group. Oh no, they're in group 18. There's only 7 of them. Okay. So the noble gases are helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, radon, and oganesson. So what I would do is I would look at those and I would see if I could create a word using the first letter. So let's see if we can do this. This is gonna be fun. Hang on. So K for krypton, R for radon. Maybe let's just, I can't really think of oh wait, well you could use RON, Ron, radon, oganesson, and neon. Ron, that's me. Ron, Hank. Ron and Hank. Oh, my good friends, Ron and Hank. Ron, radon, oganesson, and neon, and Hank. Helium, argon. Well, that would be using neon twice there again. Ron, radon, oganesson, and neon. Ron, and then what we have left is here. I'm going to copy and paste this so you can see what I'm doing here. I apologize if I'm losing some of you on this. This is going to be fun. Ron, let this video. Oh yeah. Oh, this video is going live. It'll be here forever. So you don't have to worry about that. I just posted the noble gases in the comments here. So Isn't it better if we memorize neon twice with Ron and Hank? You know what, Leo? I think it might be. I think it might be. If you memorize it twice, it reinforces it. Good point. Just tell yourself you've got it memorized twice. So Ron for radon, ognesion, and neon. Hank, helium, argon, neon again. Just tell yourself you're using it again. And K, you know, what is the K? Krypton. And then you just got to do one more there. Just tell yourself they are Xerox. Ron and Hank are at the Xerox machine for xenon. So just create stories like that. Make sense of the senseless. For math formulas, create pictures. For the variables. For chemistry, try to create stories. And that's my best advice for you there. Please, this is fun and very useful. I'm so happy, Leo. And if you can give me some more examples, I'll try to work through these with you. Here I am watching at 2:28 in India. If nobody's watching you, well, we got 16 people watching. Leo, if you haven't given me a thumbs up yet, please give me a thumbs up to help the algorithm here. Melody says, once they go into long-term, can I remove them and reuse them for a new memory? But if so, how do I do it so it can't mess up my mind? Melody, great question. Melody just asked a wonderful question. If you are using a mind palace or a memory palace, can you reuse the information? Can you reuse? So you've just put everything on a mind palace and you've memorized all your science homework on it. Can you reuse that mind palace again to memorize your history homework? Or can you reuse it again? The answer is yes, you can use it again with a caveat. Okay, there's a caveat here. Can you reuse your mind palace again? Yes. There's a couple caveats here, though. The first caveat is this. As long as the information is different. So if you want to memorize history information today and science information tomorrow using the same files, you 100% can. You put the noble gases on your mind palace today and you want to put famous world leaders on your mind palace tomorrow, those are two different topics. You're not going to confuse them. So as long as the subject matter is different, you can use your files over and over again for different stuff. That's number one. Number two, if the information is similar, if you've memorized a 50-digit number today and you want to memorize a 50-digit number tomorrow, can you use the same files? Yes, I do it all the time. You may be saying, well, Ron, that doesn't make any sense. That's so random, but they're so similar. It's 50-digit numbers. Here's why you can do it. Because when I memorize a 50-digit number as a demonstration for an audience today, and I walk off that stage at 9 a.m., I'm not going to think about that 50-digit number ever again until literally never again. If you use your files for something that's temporary and not permanent, and then the next day you want to use them again for something else that's the same topic, but you haven't reviewed, you haven't made the information permanent that you memorized yesterday, then you can continue to reuse those files over and over again because you're not going to be sticking it on top of permanent information in your memory. But if it's permanent information, if you're memorizing the digits of pi today and you do 50 digits of pi today and you review it, you make it solid. And then the next day you want to do 50 more digits. In that case, you have to use 50 new locations. You can't go back and lay it on top of that, or it would just be way too confusing. And the third thing is this. When you memorize something, after you review it so many times, it just becomes knowledge. It sticks in your memory. Here's a quote that I memorized 30 years ago. And the quote says this: it's not the critic who counts. It's not the man who points out how the strong man stumbled or where the doer of deeds could have done better. But the credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust, sweat, and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes short again and again, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, and spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. That's a quote by Teddy Roosevelt. It's called "It's Not the Critic Who Counts." It's a powerful quote. I memorized that 30 years ago using my files, and I just quoted it here for you for a reason. 30 years ago, I put that poem on top of my mind palace. I reviewed it. 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 And then something magical happens. At that point, you just know it. And you don't have to think about your files anymore to retrieve the information. It's become knowledge in your brain. So now you can take that file and you can use it to memorize something else that's identical. Remember, we can always use our files again to memorize something if the information is different, but we can reuse our files again to memorize something that's so similar if the other has just become permanent knowledge in our brain, and then our files are freed up for other stuff. A construction worker will put wooden forms down when they're building a building. They'll pour the concrete in. The concrete will harden. After the concrete has hardened, they will pull the forms away. The forms is the mind palace. The information being poured in is what you want to learn. After it hardens and you've reviewed it, you take the mind palace away and you use it for something else. Huh? Let's do a few more questions here. Thank you so much. Guys, thank you so much. I just want to jump on here. If you've got some benefit out of what I did today, please give me a like or please give me a thumbs up. If I get enough of those likes and thumbs up, I will do more of these. I'm going to go put in the description of this video as soon as I log off the link for my memory course. So check that out if you want. I got a free gift there. Give me a thumbs up and I will do more. Thank you so much for the interaction, everyone. Leo and Melody and Miguel, everybody, thank you so much. And I hope everybody has a wonderful new year. I will see y'all soon.